Welcome back to Sustained Overruled. I am the anonymous attorney. All right, let us finish out the state's or the prosecution's closing argument, okay? Really exhausted. Energy is kind of low. That's because I've been working all day. But let's get into it.
It just doesn't work.
Hold on.
You need to look at it in his hand.
What?
And Lee didn't hit him other than in his hand. But the idea that you need to look at the gunshot and the fact that Relly is already grabbing Ills as a shield, that's just misleading. It just doesn't work. I'm going to play this now in half speed. Well, this is going to be the same. And the idea, by the way, that Ills,
I need to turn this up.
that 12E is running away because Relly is trying to attack him is absurd. If you knew nothing, all you saw was this video and somebody told you, hey, listen, that's a fake gun, and everybody knows it's a fake gun, you would go, well, wait a minute. If it's a fake gun, why is everybody running around? Why is Relly grabbing Ills as a shield? Why is 12E running away? By the way, how does this incident end? This incident ends not because the defendant voluntarily says it's over. 12E literally is blocking him and pushing him away. The defendant is fired up. He's angry. We don't know what was going to happen next, but it's not as if the defendant decided on his own, you know what, I'm done. 12E pushes him away. So he's running around.
What happened?
Why is Relly grabbing Ills as a shield? Why is
I did that?
It's not because the defendant is pushing him away. The defendant is fired up. He's angry. We don't know what was going to happen next, but it's not as if the defendant decided on his own, you know what, I'm done. 12, he pushes him away. So this is the close-up. And again, this is a little bit harder. This is going to be played at half speed. It's going to be played at half speed.
I'm here. I'm just trying to draft. I have like another hour. I'm tired. I've been drafting documents the whole day. So I work from home today. I'm tired.
And again, we already know that we've got. By the way, the only thing that Mr. Tacopina did not accuse Relly of was planting the nail on the seat.
I'm sorry.
I was waiting for him to say.
That is crazy. I'm sorry. This meant it's something else. I was not expecting that. Hold on. We need to go back. He said what?
God.
That's
By the way, the only thing that Mr. Tacopina did not accuse Relly of was planting the nail on the seat. And I was waiting for it. I was waiting for him to say, Relly planted the nail. He was trying to get me.
That's crazy.
So we know who we have. Defendant.
What's up, Brooklyn?
12E. And we've got, which is hard to see, we've got Relly and Ills. So what happens? You watch for yourself. You're going to see Relly reach and then move. When Relly reaches and moves, when the defendant reaches and moves, that's when the gun is out. Whoops.
What's going on, Dylan? What? Brooklyn, what are you referring to? I did not see this. Where? Hold on. Now I need to check the news. I did not hear about this. I've just been following, the snowstorms, someplace in Massachusetts, I believe, a building collapsed because I guess the structure could not contain or bear the snowfall. Uh, I did not hear about the plane crash. Let me see. I mean, it's a good thing I canceled my trip because I would have been flying next week. I don't know what on earth I'm going to do as Zeta, but I don't see that, Brooklyn. I don't see that. I don't know. I don't see it, but I do not doubt that you're telling the truth.
So here we go. Boom. You see
Okay.
him reach, guns out.
Got it.
12 he moves.
What's up,
Relly
Jason?
is running, trying to get behind Ills. He's not beating Ills.
That's crazy.
And what is Rocky doing? He's running
That's
around,
crazy.
trying to get a shot. And
Brooklyn, where folks seriously injured or any fatalities, that is just, I don't know, something's going on. Something's definitely going on.
Gonna fire. And when he fires a second time, the gun is outstretched, aiming at Relly. And now look, there's 12 grabbing him and making the defendant go away. That's how this thing ends. Again, and I understand it. You guys don't want to believe that this man who has everything, is going to give it all up for this. I get it. But that's a decision he made. I didn't make it for him. You didn't make it for him. The judge didn't.
Yeah, I'm
Ms. Papadena did.
looking at
He
this
made
book and
that
I'm looking this
decision
up now.
on November 6th.
That is true.
And what's crazy is that apparently Relly would have been more than willing to take the money and not cooperate with anybody. And by the way, why is that? Do you think that if you are in the hip-hop rap community, that going to the police and filing a case against A$AP Rocky is going to help your career? It's done. When Rocky was saying, and you heard it before, hey, I'd be on the beach, he would have been on the beach. So not only did the defendant commit this violent crime, but in the end, his attitude was,
I'm sorry,
no, I'm not
folks.
giving you anything.
I need to go back just a
Now-
little bit because Zeta was in here being chaotic. She was in here being chaotic. So let me just go back a little bit. I never want to miss a single word, okay? I don't want to miss a word, a punctuation, nothing.
Rocky is going to help your career.
Okay, wait.
The hip. Do you think that if you are in
What's up,
the
Benji?
hip hop rap community, that going to the police
Did you make it to
and
work?
filing a case against A$AP Rocky is going to help your career? It's done. When Rocky was saying, and you heard it before, hey, I'd be on the beach, he would have been on the beach. So not only did the defendant commit this violent crime, but in the end, his attitude was, no, I'm not giving you anything. Now, that's arrogant.
Okay, so Lewin flipped it a little bit there. I did not see that argument coming. In terms of, Rocky trying to, get away, I guess, with a crime and actually not compensating him. I did not see that argument coming.
But it's what happened. And I want to make sure that no matter how
In an
successful
hour?
he is, how
All right.
famous his wife is, how cute his kids are, how much they giggle here during closing arguments, that you guys are not.
And he said the kids were giggling. I'm sorry. You guys know I'm always out of control. I was just not expecting.
No, I'm not giving you anything.
Okay.
Now, that's arrogant, but it's what happened. And I want to make sure that no matter how successful he is, how famous his wife is, how cute his kids are, how much they giggle here during closing arguments, that you guys are not going to say, you know what? We're going to give him a little extra.
Yeesh.
He needs to be treated like you would treat any other person.
I agree with that. I'm pretty sure you guys agree with that because I've brought that up over and over again, at least in response to Brooklyn and Jerome's arguments that they do not want Rocky locked up because of his kids, okay? when Mr. Thomas, that works at Walmart or whatever, or even at the chicken plant, when he goes on trial, nobody gives a damn that he has children or that he's somebody's kid or that he's had a difficult life and has struggled with drugs and alcohol. So I'm with Lewin on this. If you do decide, if the jury does decide to acquit, it has to be based on the merits of the case or unreasonable doubt, not because of some giggly children. I'm sorry.
Because in the end, that's all that he is entitled to. He doesn't get to be the big celebrity in a jury trial. He's a defendant like anyone else. Okay, so what happens after the shooting? Immediately, Relly understands what's going on. So this was very interesting. We had the officers called, and the whole idea is, we know that this incident never happened, meaning it was only a fake gun because they didn't find the casings.
Okay.
But what became very clear, ladies and gentlemen, is the defense did not realize until we called our witness, started questioning Lou Levin. They did not realize, it turns out that the prop gun, which was apparently a 9mm prop gun using 9mm ammunition, prop ammunition, is going to have the same brass.
I don't know. Hopefully the audio's okay. There's a snow plow out here that is just, I guess they need to clear the road, but it's pretty loud.
Maybe lighter, but it's going to eject the casing the same way a real 9mm does, because as Lou Levin told you, and I think it's 12 he told you, who knows less about guns, the point of those prop guns is they're supposed to look realistic. And if they don't eject the casing, they're not realistic. And
Brooklyn, I don't even know if this Brooklyn is the same person all the time, because Brooklyn is just wishy-washy. And I guess that's okay. That could speak to the possibility of a hung jury in this case. But Brooklyn, okay, what do you mean by a comment? Help me understand before I make a remark.
Any of you who've ever seen a firearm, any semi-automatic firearm, understands that in order for a second shot to be fired, unless you're going to manually take a round out and put it in, which you don't do in a semi-automatic, it's got a chamber and cycle around. That's what it does. They didn't realize that. So what happened is they spent a bunch of time talking about the incredible investigation that the LAPD officer did on the scene. I asked you during voir dire, are you going to be able, in this case, are you going to be able, if you don't have every question answered, to come to a verdict if the evidence demonstrates to you beyond a reasonable doubt that the case is been proven? Each one of you said, no, you know what, I don't need every question answered. Let me tell you a question we can't answer. I cannot tell you why LAPD did not find the casings that night. Don't know. They certainly looked.
All right, Brooklyn.
They didn't find any cases.
And that's what I appreciate about you, Brooklyn. You're self-aware, okay? You're self-aware.
Meaning, if the defendant's position is correct, if the defense position was a prop gun is correct, there should have been casings there for the prop gun. They weren't. And what we know is, Relly went back and he found them. And I'm going to go through and explain to you why that's credible evidence. So what happens? He goes back, he texts, and he says, hey, you tried to kill me. Okay? What are you talking about? Why are you telling me?
Yeah, Brooklyn, I don't know. With this news that you just shared, I don't even know if I'm actually comfortable flying in August, because I was gonna move my that means I cannot go to Mississippi. I could go to Mississippi for the holidays this year, but I don't know. I might have to take a train or something.
People I shot at you, what the defendant says.
Right.
By the way,
I don't want to drive.
the defendant's position now, their defense is that he shot at him, it was just a prop gun. So the question isn't that the defendant is lying here. He clearly is lying. He's just saying, oh no, it's a prop gun. So Relly says, you tried to set me up and take me from my daughter. He is saying, you tried to kill me. That night, in that text. Relly doesn't know we're going to trial.
Wait, what happened? I'm sorry, you
And
guys.
what's the defendant's response? Not, hey.
Oh, no, I tried to get up here early just so, by the end of today, we can be done with this thing. I keep getting distracted, which is okay because I'm still on the clock. But I keep getting distracted, so I just have to go back one more time.
Relly doesn't know we're going to trial. That tried to set me up and take me from my daughter. He is saying, you tried to kill me. That night, in that text. Relly doesn't know we're going to trial. And what's the defendant's response? Not, hey, that was a prop gun. It's stop making shit up. So, this is what they say is the big evidence in this case. Yes, Relly decided that rather than cooperating with the police, he was going to try to get a bunch of money. Is that the honorable thing to do? Is that the good civic-minded thing to do? Of course not. Because the defendant firing his gun in the middle of Hollywood jeopardized everybody. It's not just a crime against Relly, it's a crime against us all. But Relly didn't care about that. And by the way, eventually, when there's a civil trial, I'm sure that the civil lawyers will be arguing that Relly doesn't deserve anything. And luckily, that's not my job.
Okay.
We don't represent Relly. We represent the people of the state of California. And
there we go. That is the argument that I gave this prosecutor. I don't remember when it was, but I think it was probably on the first day when the first witness got up the stand. That is the major distinction between criminal cases and civil cases. A prosecutor represents the interests of the people, the citizens, not, an individual victim.
We're here because the defendant committed a violent crime. We're not here asking for money from him. And I'm not gonna sit up here and tell you what he deserves. I have no idea. So what's important here is he's explaining in this text that he wants to get the money, but he's explaining why. He shot at me. Relly never, ever, ever has been inconsistent in the fact that the defendant shot him, that he got hit. Never. Sure, was he not upfront about owning property in Miami? Some of the questions, how did you make money in 2021? Is this a picture of your girlfriend? Imagine if you are sitting here on a case that is being live streamed. You got the camera here. You've already been threatened. Your family's been threatened. Your daughter's been threatened. Your girlfriend's been threatened. And now someone is going to ask you, defense attorney, what's your girlfriend's name? Let me show you a picture of her for the world to see. What do you expect, really?
I don't know. Do you guys, Benji, Jason, Brooklyn, do you guys buy this argument that Lewin is making as far as him, being obtuse because he has some safety concerns? Do you guys buy the argument or no?
Okay, now we're going to get to the most important statement that Relly gives in this case. And let me tell you why it's so important.
Okay, so Brooklyn says that he thought the girlfriend and family are fair play. But I mean, does that, what I'm trying to get at, Lewin's explanation about why he denied the girlfriend or why he denied property, does it explain why he was unresponsive, why he was not forthcoming? Okay, so Benji says that's a plausible explanation.
Yeah. Some might be.
Yeah, I mean, so far, this is not evidence, but so far we probably still have 2 hours left. of Lewin, it is a cogent closing argument. It's not evidence per se, but he's making sense. He is making sense. I was gonna say to an extent, but the man, he's making sense.
Ask yourself.
And this is actually impressive considering that it's not, written. It's not all written out.
Why did the defense bring in this evidence?
What did he do? What?
And let's be clear. When the defense says, well, we only brought the defense bring in this evidence. And let's be clear. When the defense says, well, we only brought Wally out here to testify to one thing, that's true. They easily could have played the call. There's no magic form where we got to play and they don't. They're arguing that Relly is inconsistent.
The objection to not play that whole call.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. What was that?
The entire call.
We played.
By the defense.
Oh, no, that's what I'm saying. The defense could have played the entire call. They didn't.
That was the objection.
But objection sustained. Go on to something.
So we decided that we were going to
He's
play
something
the entire
else.
call. And you can listen to this call. And let me tell you what's so important about the call. Relly does not have any idea that he is being recorded.
Right.
He's not talking to cops. He's not talking to a prosecutor. He's talking to someone who he thinks is his friend. Now, that person isn't actually his friend. That person is an agent of
Yeesh.
Rocky. How do we know he's an agent of Rocky? Well, we know it for a couple of reasons. One, and again, this is how just lack of credibility filled Wally's testimony. Wally says that basically he just happened to record him. When I'm asking, wait, why are you recording him?
Jason, what was the interview about? I know you guys talked about this. This is the first time I'm, opening my laptop today, so I could not really catch up with anything apart from work.
Well, he had like 10 missed calls from me. Well, wait a minute. So your friend, you have 10 missed calls, you decide I'm going to record this call.
And I don't know, as we get into March, I think I'm going to take a different, I'm going to take on a different format. Okay. This was nice that, we could get up here every once in a while during during, it's usually towards the end of the day, really, and watch this together. But I don't know. We'll get into it. We're not even in March yet. We'll get to it.
He recorded him.
He said what?
10 missed calls from me. Well, wait a minute. So your friend, you have 10 missed calls, you decide I'm going to record this call. He recorded him because he was trying to get information to help Rocky. And you know that because what does he admit that he did right afterwards? He calls Rocky and tells him what he said. But here's what's incredible. When you listen, I'm going to play it. Wally's testimony was he knew nothing about this incident before this phone call. Yet, you're going to hear him say, I'm not here to pick sides. So that's a straight lie. Of course he knew about it. He's Rocky's good friend. It's already been in the media. It's been blown up in hip-hop websites.
Sheesh.
Of course he knows about it. And when you listen, what is so crucial about this statement is this is Relly live, not in a courtroom, not to a police officer, but to a friend where he's got no motive to make up anything, where he's explaining what happened. And he is literally incredulous. When you listen to this, what's going on is Wally is trying to get him to try to settle this thing for money. That's what's going on when you listen. And Relly's like, hey, I tried to settle it for money. He didn't want to do it. But in terms of the facts of what happened, he is crystal clear and consistent about everything that matters. So listen.
shit there, so you what happened, Rose? You know, I'm not trying to pick sides. I'm mad at both y'all niggas for letting that shit happen, you feel me?
Oh, it ain't no picking sides. That nigga 100% crazy and wrong.
Yeah.
100% wrong. And he got 12-year ills mixed, bro. I'm not. You gotta understand, Rocky been on his high horse for a very long time. You feel me?
Feel me?
He didn't have to do what he did. I don't have. He forced my hand. You feel me? I got over 20 missed calls between him ills. Why is Rocky going out his way to do anything like that? You get what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure you didn't hear the story or whatever it is. But you gotta look at it like this. Why is he going out his way to call me 20 times? Got ills and 12 you with him. Text messages saying link up, where you at? And all of this is because of I pressed him about Josh, him not doing right by Josh, and he spoke to Josh's mom and lied. You get what I'm saying? So I wrote him about that. He hits up Bari later about that, but I'm with Bari. Bari got the phone on speaker. You get what I'm saying? This shit didn't fit well with me. So Rocky talks about me within that conversation because he sees I text him about Josh. You feel me? And told him taking ASAP out my name. This was 7 months ago. I took ASAP out my name. You feel me?
Yeah.
He's a bitch, so he goes in and hit Bari because Bari an influencer a whole week later doing that complex con shit. You feel what I'm saying? Just so happened I'm with Bari while Rocky hits her. Rocky says my name. You get what I'm saying? Real Money, 12-year ills is at his house. I hit Real Money the next morning, tell Real Money. I heard Rocky bitch ass tell him I don't fuck with him. Whoopie. You feel me? No fighting words, none of that. Just basically, nigga, I heard you. But in Rocky's head, he was like a bitch because Bari had him on speaker. Rocky don't know who else heard that conversation, but he know I heard him talk about me. And I told Rocky over the years, nigga, if you have a problem with me, let me know. Stop rocking me to sleep. You feel me? Boom. Next thing you know, I guess that was enough for him. He felt like a bitch because he knew I heard that conversation. I wasn't supposed to hear that conversation because Rocky I never heard him say curse words or even have that type of energy towards me. You know what I'm saying? So now I know the real him. I tell Real Money, tell that nigga fuck him. You feel me? Boom. Shit is related to him. Next thing you know, I get over 20, 30 missed calls between him, Ills, and Rocky. Text messages. I'm staying at the Lowe's. I tell him, he calls me. I finally answer because I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
I answered. He's like, where you at? With his flip voice. I'm like, huh? Where you at? Nigga, I'm at the W. I'm not really at the Lowe's. You feel me? You know, Hollywood Boulevard. They all look the same. You're like, no, you're not. Nigga, that's a bum-ass hotel. I'm like, huh? He said, show me outside. Okay. All of it look the same. I showed him outside. What he does, be there in 5 minutes. I'm like, all right. My girl like, what the fuck is going on? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
He calls me. Those calls me. Yeah, I got all these text messages, bro. You niggas is dumb. You and a couple only people heard this story. Rocky out here thinking it's all sweet, but his life is really, and bro,
That's what I wanted to ask you, bro. Like, why the boys though? You feel me? Why take it to the you know, the guys? You feel me?
Who, me?
Yeah, if anything, on how the boys meet.
Why wouldn't I, bro? He's a multi-millionaire. He blamed at me. I'm no longer on his level. Everybody turned on me. Everybody, bro. Rocky had everybody turn on me that day. Plus, what the fuck am I doing? Spin on his block and go shoot him up? Or do I cripple him? Because he's a multi-millionaire, bro. I'm not having nobody shoot at me where I'm taking him on the chin. And two, I'm not about to spin on Rocky's block. I'm already a millionaire, nigga. You get what I'm saying?
So what you looking for? You think
you're a black nigga? I'm teaching everybody how to get money, how to do this. Do Rocky do that? Do you have a foundation for black people? Do you have a foundation for anybody? No, this nigga's greedy. You get what I'm saying? So I can't sit here and be like, oh, how do you meet somebody like that, bro? You take away what they have, dogs. You feel what I'm saying? I'm not doing it on some like this, that, and the third, or some pokey shit. Like, I would have had to got a lawyer the same day because he read at me 4 or 5 times. I had to use ills as a shield or I'd be dead.
I feel niggas ain't trying to like, you feel me? You not trying to end splash this shit, get some
Comments that I feel.
You know, like,
bro, it's too late. He told me suck a dick. Boom. I hit up John the same day. Bro, that's all on him. He had nothing but time, bro. When I got the best lawyer in LA and worried about my business. You feel me? He told John to stop contacting me. I sent him the bullets, sent him the text messages of him, letting him know how serious this is. You know what he said? Nigga, fuck you.
Bro.
So what I'm supposed to do? I accept the nigga shooting at me 4 or 5 times, but I almost died, or shoot this man. Now come on.
Okay, so Brooklyn says that the audio is damning evidence, but not enough to convict. Why do you think it's not enough?
Of course, the severity of the case, he tried to kill me. So that's what he got to read. You feel me?
There ain't no way niggas just why like you feel me, no paper, no nothing, Rose. Like you feel me? Like
bro, he's a grown.
I still do not understand what Tacopino is thinking by putting Wally on the stand. Just I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me.
He's 33 years old. He got other things talking for him. You know what he did? You get what I'm saying? He had more than enough time. This shit happened 7 months later. He wasn't trying to reach out to me. He still didn't reach out to me.
Legal shit going out of boys.
I feel.
That's on him. I didn't want to go about that way. I went ahead and got a lawyer. When you get a lawyer, that has nothing to do with boys. And Jabari is his friend. He might as well thank him for him not being late in the field because those are allegations. You feel me? He got enough, and you're part of the PR team. He would have had enough people to block that if Jabari didn't say nothing, bro. Those are allegations. Jabari made it official.
Yeah, so what's the next one?
And Jabari's getting sued too. Jabari's getting sued for defamation of character.
Because everybody was bad, bro. You know, I'm trying to.
He was bad. He did that, bro. I didn't call him. I didn't have a gun. He left this in Hollywood house. Right? Everybody saying everybody looks bad. Everybody points the finger because when if I take, bro, I got Hollywood. I got so many people.
Niggas grew up together, bro. Niggas grew up
That's what
together, bro.
niggas saying. He's in a mansion. Nigga, I paid my way around him every single time. That's him. He uses niggas. He used 12-year ills, nigga. That was the whole joke. That was the whole shit with Barbie and the whole game. You know what I'm saying? The nigga asked his Barbie, is he coming to the complex car? Nigga, Barbie laughed at him. Like, nigga, you're not using me. Nigga, the next conversation went about how he got 12 and ills on his jet on some old shit.
Because y'all niggas grew up together, man. Like, you feel me? Like,
I made that nigga. Fuck growing up. I made that nigga. Not no 12, not no jams. He didn't know jams. Jams popped up at my crib on purple swag. I made that nigga. That's why you feel like that, bro. I've been powerful. I've been that. Jabari never did, bro. I quit every last one.
I just want y'all niggas to kind of end this shit, you know, find out.
And he could have ended it when he shot at me. Who ends anything when a nigga shoot at you 4 or 5 times? You gotta grab another member to protect yourself.
That's crazy.
He called me out my living space. Called me, told me stop ducking him. He planned it. That's called premeditated, bro. You feel what I'm saying? He didn't give me a chance. He told me I'm coming to a gun battle. I came to meet him to see what the fuck the status was about. He pulls out. He tries to chest bump me. He tries to chest bump me and then pull out a gun for self-defense. He's a pussy boy. And then Ilse is standing in between while he's trying to shoot me. He didn't give me no seconds. First thing happened like that. And I got it all on camera. You don't want that, like, trust me, Kevin. You stupid. He did it all on camera, champ. So the world looking at me because of Barry's mouth right now, but in a few seconds, if I wanted to do an HBO or do anything, this whole career is fucking. Everybody's looking at me like the man.
That's what I like. Like, what's your, I guess it was the end game here, bro. Like, you
The end game, I'm just doing this shit out of him. That was my game. And regardless, I don't give a fuck about no police, nigga. I'm going against a multi-millionaire that's trying to kill me.
So, it's really to get in, bro, or you just trying to move on and shit?
Besides doing something like that.
Okay. So Benji would love to hear ASAP Rocky talk. What do you want him to say? Okay, what would you like to hear from him? Let me put it that way. Just in general, or you know, or do you want him to talk about this case, or is it something else?
Because he wanted to be a gangster and run out his crib like that. That has nothing to do with me. You feel me? I did my part. They knew there on my end. What else am I supposed to do?
I mean, like, watch that shit in the streets type shit, like, man.
In the street, nigga. Bro, what the fuck?
I feel
Yo, bro, this is a street nigga. You already know what would happen. Everybody know what would happen. We're talking about ASAP Rocky, bro. The face of Dior, of shopping.
Nah, I'm just trying to, I'm just because I fuck with you heavy, bros. You know, I was always love every time, nigga, and I fuck with you.
I'm trying to let people know, and the ones who's close by him, this ain't no, he ain't no gangster, bro, this ain't no gangster. If this was a gangster, this would be handled in the streets.
So how niggas play?
Got 3 4 bodyguards from 24/7.
So like, what's next though, bro? Like niggas go to court, you feel me? Like, why not just watch this shit?
He's finished.
Why not just ask for the bag, or you know?
I tried already, bro. You don't ask for the bag because that's extortion, bro. When you got somebody that's shooting at you, you ever look like I'm smart, bro. You gotta understand I'm not a dumb black nigga, bro. You know what I'm saying? You ask for a bag without a lawyer first called extortion. You feel me? You're gonna do everything accordingly. Everything accordingly, or it's gonna catch up with you.
All right, Wally.
All right, folks, this time take 10 minutes. Please be outside the courtroom doors at 2.
They probably disappeared for
2:45.
30. They probably disappeared for 30. Let's see. Yep.
On the record. In your argument, Mr. Lewin, you made reference to Rihanna being in the courtroom and the kids being in the courtroom. The manner in which you did it, I don't think was improper. However, for the balance of your argument from here on out, there is to be no mention of Rihanna being in the courtroom or the kids being in the courtroom.
Okay, so I don't understand. What's his name? Arthur Arnold. I don't understand Judge Arnold's reasons for this. Okay, and the reason why I don't understand this ruling, or why he basically what is this? Censored the prosecution is if you do not think that Lewin's mention of Rihanna or the kids was improper, why can he not continue to do it? What is the basis for that?
Just them not being in the courtroom, but I can mention, here's the problem, Your Honor. The defense got up and they talked about the impact of this case on Rihanna.
I said in the courtroom.
Oh, just don't mention it in the
Do
courtroom.
not mention again Rihanna being in the courtroom or the babies being in the courtroom. There should be no mention of that.
Right, I'm just trying to understand, but I can mention the issue, just not talking about being in courtroom.
Mr. Tacopina went into that.
Okay.
You're entitled to.
I wasn't
No mention.
I wasn't
of
trying
them
to
being in the
argue a court, I just wanted to understand what was going on.
Sheesh, I'm glad that I represent regular folks. I don't have these type of problems, okay?
There should be no mention.
We'll do it.
All right. Let's bring the jury.
Yeah. Try to be very, very.
And okay, so Benji's interested, in hearing Rocky's account. All right, but again, as far as him being a defendant, he doesn't actually have to, get on the stand. He obviously did not get on the stand. Brooklyn said, he said what you said is done, but from here on, don't mention it again. Yeah, to me, that's not what I heard. I said, the judge said it was not improper. He does not think it was improper. So if it's not improper, I don't know why he censored the prosecution.
Very careful.
All right, come on now.
So that was the key evidence in this case regarding Relly. Could not have been more plain in what he said. Could not have been more credible regarding the issues that matter. And what are the issues that matter? The defendant shot him. The defendant brought a gun, a real gun, to the scene. What's interesting is that it's very clear, and you heard the testimony from Wally. Wally said he was, quote, mediating.
Oh.
Which, please. At one point in time, what you heard him say, he changed the word, which I think is good. Also, I'll think of it in a second. This is what happens when you get on the board. Mitigating, thank you. Later on, he said, no, he was trying to mitigate. Sometimes that's called a gaffe. A gaffe is something that you don't mean to say, but which turns out to be true. He was trying to mitigate for Rocky. And how do you know? Because he called Rocky immediately afterward. And then he's saying, I don't remember what Rocky said. I couldn't tell you. Why is he calling him? Why is he taking this? And why during this call, repeatedly, he is telling Relly, ask for a bag, meaning ask for money. Relly's telling him, I asked for money. He doesn't want to give it to me. Wally continually says, hey, basically, why are you taking it to the guys? Why take it to the boys? Meaning, why'd you bring the cops into it? He is doing the bidding for the defendant. And what's amazing, and again, it's not right, but the defendant, according to Relly, could have eliminated this whole situation by simply taking care of it with Relly. It wouldn't have been right. It wouldn't have changed what he did. But Relly apparently would have been on an island where we couldn't have found him.
I'm sorry.
His choice, his option, his consequences. Now, the defense said that we believe, this is a quote, that that tape is, quote, death to our case. I don't know what he means by death. That is not death to our case. That tape was the key to Relly's credibility if you believe it is important. In other words, that tape backs up every material point that Relly has made.
Yeah, Brooklyn, I'm thinking pre-recorded, just, summing up testimony from the day in like 10 minutes. I think that might, I don't know. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. That's what I'm thinking. And live, probably once a week. We'll see though. We'll play around with different formats. But that's what I'm thinking.
Okay, believability of witnesses. In determining the believability of a witness, this is California 226, you may consider anything that has a tendency to prove or disprove the truthfulness of the witness. Okay, believability of witnesses.
Okay.
In determining the believability of a witness, this is California 226, you may consider anything that has a tendency to prove or disprove the truthfulness of the witness. Again, I'll be very clear. Twelby and ASAP Lou came in there, and they repeatedly lied about almost everything. I'm not going to go through all the inconsistencies. Twelby didn't want to concede that he's reliant on the defendant, didn't want to admit that he's talked to the defendant. If you believe Twelby and Lou, they've had almost no conversations about what happened in this case since the start. And if you believe Wally, even though Wally is, quote, mediating the situation, he's never talked to Rocky about it. He's never talked to Twelby about it. How do you mediate a situation when you're only talking to one party? It's just not true. They lied. The difference between Relly
Brooklyn said, all right, thank you, Brooklyn.
Relly was angry. Relly threw things. Listen, that wasn't appropriate conduct. You saw the judge. The judge was very frustrated with him. Everybody was frustrated with him. Listen, Mr. Proslenik, that was his witness. That's no easy task for him. But in the end, his credibility about what counts in this case was absolutely proven, and it was proven through their own witness. The evidence in this case, remember, we didn't have that tape. That tape came from Wally. We heard that tape only slightly before you did. Wally comes in and testifies, they play a snippet, and we play the rest. So when you're looking at the factors, you're looking at what witnesses are to be believed. They called 3 witnesses. All 3 of them perjured themselves. All 3 of them lied. All 3 of them came in to protect
You're funny, Brooklyn. You're very funny.
the defendant. And although they were calmer and more respectful, they perjured themselves in material areas. Relly, on the other hand, was truthful about everything that counted. So the defense focused on the fact that basically you can reject the testimony of Relly if you find that he lied about anything. However, Calcrim 226 tells you do not automatically reject testimony just because of inconsistencies or conflicts. Consider whether the differences are important or not.
Okay.
So listen, is it true that Relly, at points in time, was untruthful during his testimony? Absolutely. When he's saying, I don't know my girlfriend's name, of course he knows.
That's crazy. I'm sorry.
When he's saying he doesn't know about a place in Miami that he purchased, of course he knows.
He said she
But
has
those
makeup on.
differences, those inconsistencies, those conflicts, they're not only not important, they are completely irrelevant.
Okay.
In talking about ASAP Lou for a second,
Who? Lou?
I'm going to come back to that.
No.
Okay,
No.
let's talk about the injuries to Relly's hand. Now, the defense said, hey, prosecution, you did not call a witness to come in here and say that that is a wound from a gun. How is somebody going to be able to come look at an injury?
And I don't remember who it was, but I believe somebody must have been on either yesterday or on Friday. One of my co-counsel, I think it was Old Bag. They wanted a medical opinion. At least they wanted the prosecutor to call somebody with a medical opinion as to these injuries. I believe. I think it was Old Bag.
Injury and tell you where it came from. Now, here's what you have to ask yourself. If there was something about that injury,
And I said, and I had said previously that I do not know that that's really a big deal. And the reason for that is because we have something called differential diagnosis. So even if they brought, I don't know, a nurse or somebody to get on the stand and say there's a possibility that Relly was injured when the bullets ricocheted, the other side of that argument is that the defense can get up there and basically ask, is it possible he sustained these injuries by, falling on the road and scraping his knuckles on the asphalt? And that's a possibility too. So it's not, I know that testimony as far as a medical opinion would really assist the prosecution in any way. Even if the defense had, decided to bring on some medical practitioner to come and testify to these injuries, I don't know that it would have closed any gaps. And overall, the injuries are not significant as far as the charge or the charges at hand are concerned.
that was inconsistent, where it could not have come from a firearm.
What's that?
Is this an exhibit? It's not evidence.
I believe this is the correct exhibit. Is this
It's the incorrect.
oh, you know what? Hold on, let me back it up. That's my fault. I have the wrong picture. Excuse me. The same. Let me change it. Thank you. Okay, this is the correct exhibit. So we're still talking about the injury of the hands. And you know, without question, that if was an expert who could come in here and testify, you know what? Those injuries could not have come from a graze wound. They would have called that witness. And again, how do you know? Look at the team that's standing over there.
Sheesh.
Look at the fact that they called in Wally. The purpose of calling Wally, bring him out from France for thousands of dollars, obviously, was to simply impeach Relly with the fact that it was his voice. So if there was a medical professional who could come in here and tell you, well, that didn't come from a gunshot, you would have heard from them. And the
Okay,
failure
so
call,
here are Benji's thoughts. Benji says, I like that the prosecution made the point that just because he being Relly, would have accepted money doesn't mean that he's not a credible witness. All right, Benji.
logical witness.
I think Lewin did a good job. We're not all the way through, but he did this is typical of a closing argument. Mr. P, he lost me again. I've said it. The beginning of his closing was a little questionable because I did not understand what he was saying. And then Takapina, for sure, he lost me. He never actually, I don't know that Takapina ever had me to begin with.
Is something you can.
Then again, the closing argument, that's not evidence. It's just how they sum it up, how they tie everything, and try and sway the jury. But at this point, the jury, they've gone through all the evidence. They probably already have their minds made up. So
Consider, and you should consider. And when the defense says, wait a minute, the people didn't call somebody in to testify, well, you have to ask yourself, if we call someone in to testify, what are we going to be able to get from them? Do you think common sense, you don't have to be an expert, who can look at an injury like this and say, yeah, that came from a bullet? You can. You can look at it and go, okay, could it be a grazed wound? Sure. So if the defense had an expert that was going to say what they wanted, you would have heard from them. Okay, let's talk about Gills for a second. This was, again, the defense went all in on a couple of things. One of the things that went all in was that if there were casings at the scene, LAPD would have found them. Well, they didn't realize that the prop gun put out casings.
You already said that.
And therefore, the question isn't that LAPD missed the 9mm casings in this case. The issue is that without question, whether it was the 9mm or the prop gun, it would have left casings, and LAPD missed it. Why? We'll never know. Why did Relly find it? Well, he had the advantage of knowing exactly where it was.
Okay.
Same thing with Ills. Again, the plan was clearly from these witnesses, and particularly from 12E, we're going to build up the fact that Relly gave Ills a beatdown. This had to do with his strength, how strong he is. He's punching him in the.
Yeah, it's like what, 4:54 p.m. I'm done working for the day. I did not know that I can be any more productive. I've done everything I could, but my brain is just it's gone.
fist. Remember the judge? I still think there's a difference between a closed fist and a regular fist. But the judge, if you remember, when I mentioned closed fist, the judge said, well, a fist is a fist. It doesn't really matter. Their testimony was, and even today, you've got the defense saying how Relly is landing haymakers on Ills. They said that he was bleeding. Okay? Relly's a big guy. He's very strong. They said he was punched in the face at least 3 times. Well, I guess they didn't realize we were going to have a video the next day, less than 24 hours later. And this is from the video.
Yeah, that's social media.
Look at his face.
So I don't mess
No
around with
injuries.
social media.
No injuries. Nothing. 0.
Hey there, Delilah.
Still photo from the video. Nothing. That is not the face of somebody that was punched in the face repeatedly, given a beating by a large, strong man less than 24 hours before. Someone who they said was bleeding from an injury to the lip when we see nothing. And by the way, where is Ills? Ills is his friend, Rocky's friend. If you think for a moment that Ills would have had something helpful.
Brooklyn, where is Ills? Okay, because you're always correct and you're always right. I'd like to know where Ills is.
To say in this case, they would have called him. And when they said, wait a minute, the people needed to call him.
Right, let's do this.
Why on earth would it make sense for the people to call one of the three individuals who was clearly involved in ambushing Relly in the first place and who was reliant on the defendant for his career? If Ills had anything helpful, they would have called him. So I brought this up in voir dire.
I have a comment. Takapina. Oh, I have emails to reply to. I just remembered emails from this morning. Anyways, Takapina appears to be a little bit more reserved, and this is after the tiff, the little knuckle scrape between Lewin and Takapina. And immediately after it happened, I said he can't. I guess maybe there's more out there that he does not want us to know. This is me speculating, but I'm nosy because I really want to know what it is that Lewin would like to expose about things that happened in the case that the public is not privy to. But he's come back a little bit more muted, a little bit more toned down, not as aggressive. And I guess that's what happens when you're actually arguing and fighting with opposing counsel in the midst of closing arguments.
And this is really important, an idea that I wanted to make sure.
What's up, Cali girl?
We mentioned that we might have to be a little bit aggressive on cross-examination. And
that is a damn shame. Brooklyn, if that is true. So Brooklyn said, Takapina said in today's interview that it was his client who told him to restrain himself, and it was very hard for him to do. That is a damn shame. If you have a defendant that is facing a significant amount of time, and as an attorney, you're not able to restrain yourself, you might need to do some work on yourself, okay? I do not know that it is a client's place to comfort an attorney during a criminal case. I'm not even saying it's appropriate for a civil case, but I would be embarrassed, frankly, if I was the one that behaved in that manner. I'd be embarrassed to disclose to the general public that my client told me to restrain myself. That doesn't make any sense. And I'm going to say this. I've said this a million times. Rocky should have gone with a different attorney.
I wanted to make sure I asked you all in advance. Hey, listen.
What is he saying?
On cross-examination.
So, Brooklyn, what do you make of that? What do you make when Takapina said that in the interview that you watched? What did you make of it?
And I wanted to make sure I asked you all in advance. Hey, listen, if we have to be aggressive in cross-examination with witnesses, are you going to hold that against us? You all said that you wouldn't. Now,
I mentioned this before at the very beginning. Must have been probably the very beginning of what is this? Must have been the first witness. No, it cannot be the first witness because he was chilled. I think he was Relly. When Relly was on the stand, I have brought it out that during voir dire, the prosecution would have brought this out. Basically, I said it. I think I said it in relation to Takapina, though, where I said that it is not uncommon for defense attorneys, public defenders, to not really plea with the jurors, but basically to make it clear that, or to have an understanding that jurors will not hold the aggression or the manner in which they decide to zealously represent their clients against the attorney or against the client. So apparently Lewin covered this.
Now, whether you all found Mr. Prezlenic to be too aggressive, too loud, too mean, I can't control this man.
It's funny.
I can try, but it's impossible. And again, I make that joke because obviously I'm an intense guy. This is a serious situation we're in. And Mr. Tacopina got up here, he explained to you what it's like to be a defense attorney, what it's like to have what he said as an innocent client. Let me tell you something. I want you to imagine right now that someone you cared about was a victim. What kind of prosecutor would you want? Would you want somebody who takes what they're doing seriously, who is aggressive, who does their job, and who goes after witnesses who need going after? So I'm not asking you guys to like me. It'd be nice if you did.
I'm sorry.
That's not what this case is about. It's not about me, my personality. It's not about Mr. Tacopina's personality. It's about what the evidence in the case is. And there's a great quote. Professor John Henry Whitmore, Northwestern Law School dean. He also wrote a series of books, legal books. He was a scholar. And what he said was,
all right, Benji, enjoy your shift. I'll be back later on tonight as well. So that will be around 8:30, I think 8:30, maybe 8:45. Yeah, let's do 8:45 so I'm not rushing. So around 8:45 p.m. I'll be back.
cross-examination is beyond any doubt the greatest legal engine ever invented for the discovery of truth.
That is true. That's why cross-examination is my favorite part of any trial, and it's difficult to do.
The defense put up 3 witnesses who lied about basically every material fact they were asked about. Those lies were exposed in cross-examination. Was it gentle?
You did not miss much, Benji. If anything, it's just me pausing because I apparently cannot, I'm always pausing. Brooklyn says, again, very little was revealed in today's interview because he still has a gag order in place. He spoke about his previous cases, his relationship with defendants, where he grew up, but nothing. I don't understand the substance of actually doing he is a media personality guy. Okay, that's Tacopina. So I guess it makes sense. It makes sense that he would Kylie, Brooklyn is talking about Tacopina. I think it was Brooklyn and Jason that revealed yesterday that he would be interviewed. I don't know where he was interviewed, but he interviewed somewhere. Okay. All right, let's get on.
It wasn't.
What did he say?
But that's what it took. And I want to apologize for it.
Wait, what did he say?
About basically every material fact they were asked about. Those lies were exposed in cross-examination. Was it gentle? It wasn't. But that's what it took. And I want to apologize for it.
Okay.
I said before, I can't expect you all to do your job if I don't do mine. All right, let's talk about what the elements are of assault with a semi-automatic firearm, 245B. 1, you don't need to actually touch someone with it. So the fact that did the defendant touch Relly with the gun on the first incident, it doesn't matter. By the way, he pulls the gun out. If any of you are buying the idea, as 12 said, that it fell out when his pants were being pulled up, then I'm up here wasting my breath.
Sorry.
I would add that you're all intelligent people, and if anybody is even remotely considering that, I would ask you to ask yourselves and to ask them, is that what you think, or are you trying to find a way to not convict this man because of who he is? the issue of treating everybody equally. It's paramount to our criminal justice system. So, again, back to the elements, you don't need to actually touch someone. The evidence is that you did. You do not need to intend to use the force, meaning you don't have to pull that gun, meaning that you're planning on shooting it. You don't actually need to injure someone. You don't need to fire the gun. You don't even need to point the gun at the victim. This is in the instruction. And that also goes for the personal use of the firearm. Now, the one thing is, it has to be a firearm. And again, I'm going to go back to this because it's so important. The defense is it was a prop gun.
Okay.
That's the issue in this case. They say it's prop gun. They say all the evidence shows it's prop gun. We say it's firearm. Once you decide that it is a firearm, that means that their entire defense has fallen apart.
Okay.
And now what Mr. Tacopina apparently wants you to do is say, well, even if the witnesses we put on lied, even if it was a real gun,
Objection.
here's why it was self-defense. There's an old story about it's a civil case, civil lawyer, and he has a dog bite case, and he is defending his client with the dog, and they're being sued. The client is being sued because his dog has allegedly bitten somebody. He gets up and closes an argument, and he says as follows: "Hey, listen, my client's dog. There's no way.
Wait, what's the story?
Done any kind of damage to it.
I'm sorry. Let me go back. I was responding to last minute emails. I mean, it's past 5, but I still have to finish billing for the day. But I want to hear about this dog bite case or whatever it is.
Has a dog self-defense. There's an old story about it's a civil case, civil lawyer, and he has a dog bite case, and he is defending his client with the dog, and they're being sued. The client is being sued because his dog has allegedly bitten somebody. He gets up and closes an argument, and he says as follows: "Hey, listen, my client's dog. There's no way he could have done any kind of damage to the plaintiff because he was on a leash. He was in the yard, could not have gotten to where he says he got. But if you find that he was loose, the dog's old, and he couldn't have done any damage with those old teeth of his. But okay, if you find that he was off leash and he had some big teeth, well, my final defense is my client doesn't own a dog."
I'm sorry.
That's what we have here. It's no different. It's a prop gun. Absolutely prop gun.
He said
That
the
is a
client
full
does
prop.
not own a dog.
It's
That's
prop gun.
crazy.
But if you find it's not a prop gun, here's why Rocky fired a real gun in self-defense.
I mean, that defense just never made sense to me. Look at Jerome. Do you guys see Jerome up here? Do you guys see Jerome? Do you guys see Jerome on Core TV? Hold on, I'm gonna play the video a little bit so his comment can move up
It
to
is
the front.
almost insulting because it is so inconsistent.
You guys see Jerome up here? He said that prop gun is worth so much money. If I had it, he said he would be rich. Shout out to Jerome, bro.
So when a defendant equips and positions himself to carry out a battery, he has the present ability required, even if some steps remain to be taken. This is basically saying once he's taken that gun out and he's committed the assault, when that gun comes out, that point in time, the assault's done. So this is the 3470, the right to self-defense. And this is really important because remember, it only applies if it is a real gun and not a prop gun. But it's a little more than that Because what it basically says is you have to show that they are acting in lawful self-defense or of defense of another. The defense position in this case is that the defendant was acting to protect Relly and Ills. But
Really?
it's more than that, okay?
I don't know.
So basically, they're saying that defendant believed that he, Ills, and Twelve were in imminent danger, okay, of suffering bodily injury. And by the way, and you all know this, if someone is in danger of being touched unlawfully, you can't shoot them, okay? You don't have to actually go through jury instructions to figure that out,
Yeah.
okay?
It
If
has
I
to be
go and
proportional.
I slap one of you guys, you can't shoot me.
And I mentioned this before. I think it's when we had Mr. Prentice Jones from Indiana up here. I think it related to the first surveillance, the first surveillance footage. I think it was the parking garage, okay? And Prentice got up here and he said, "Oh, it's self-defense because Rally's on tape and he says it was self-defense." But that is not how it works, people. That's not how it works. Let's see. Brooklyn said he said something that the judge put in place. Then once a verdict is reached, they need to sit on that verdict for 1.5 hours till it's revealed, no matter it's the end of the day or beginning of the day. Okay, so once the verdict is reached, so I suppose we won't actually know. Won't actually know? Okay. All right. You see, Benji is entertained by me. Brooklyn said, what are you talking about, Brooklyn? All right, let's get into this. I'll be up here for, a little bit more. Maybe let's give it until, how much time do we still have left? Oh, we only have an hour? Oh, that's good. Yeah, we're going to have about an hour. Okay, because tonight, you guys know it takes me forever to actually get through these videos. All right, let's go, though. Let's
And
go.
why is that? Because he's got to believe that the immediate use of force was necessary
Right.
to defend against the danger, and that it was no more force than was reasonably necessary to defend against the danger. So what does all this mean? Well, they're basically claiming that the defendant used a prop gun, which means self-defense doesn't apply. So as soon as you find that out, you're done. But they're also arguing, hey, if you find, well, then
No, I know what photobomb is. What I read was different. I could not see the word likes. That's why I put it back up here. Likes to photobomb. It looked like look. Does that make sense? I could not read the word like because I don't have my glasses on.
it was a gun, even though that's not our argument. And Mr. Tacopina wouldn't come out and say it. But
Wait, what?
Use a prop gun, which means self-defense doesn't apply. So as soon as you find that out, you're done. But they're also arguing, hey, if you find, well, then it was a gun, even though that's not our argument. And Mr. Tacopina wouldn't come out and say it. But that's what the law is. If you don't believe me, you can ask the judge. Self-defense only applies in this case if it's a real gun.
Sheesh. That is yeah. I do not know. What on earth was Joe Tacopina thinking? What was Joe Tacopina? Let's go back. Let's go back. At least now, okay, for future references. I know. Don't use the prop gun defense. Come up with something else. And I mean, even if it's successful here, again, I represent ordinary people. I don't represent, folks with money. Otherwise, they're not qualified for my services. Okay, but I don't know.
Against the danger. So what does all this mean? Well, they're basically claiming that the defendant used a prop gun, which means self-defense doesn't apply. So as soon as you find that out, you're done. But they're also arguing, hey, if you find, well, then it was a gun, even though that's not our argument. And Mr. Tacopina wouldn't come out and say it. But that's what the law is. If you don't believe me, you can ask the judge. Self-defense only applies in this case if it's a real gun.
That's crazy. That is wow. I do not know.
And the problem is, it also only applies if the force used was no more than reasonably necessary to defend against that danger. And now let's look at what that alleged danger is. There is no beating up of Ills, okay? There was no beating up of Ills. It's a lie. It's not true. You see the video. But even if somehow you wanted to argue it, and you know it's a lie, because you can see
Can you
that
stop,
the
Mom?
gun, you can't see what the item is. Let's be clear. You can see Rocky pulling something out. You can't tell what it is, but you can then see that what he takes, he ends up putting out in front of him and aiming and shooting. That is what prompts Relly to grab Ills. They say, well, he had to use, I guess, and this guy can never argue this. He can't because it's inconsistent with his theory. But the theory would have to be that.
Yeah, Callie, the defense, my goodness. I've been trying to come up with a better defense. And I mean, I said it from the very beginning, okay? The jury can do whatever it is the jury wants to do. But based on what we saw, I've said it before, the black letter law, that is not self-defense. There's no self-defense here. I just do not know what a better argument for defense would have been. I'm really the prop gun. I don't know, because I was thinking about it this morning, and I think under these circumstances, I probably would have denied everything. I'd have denied. That's my client up there. I just would have denied everything, and make it an uphill battle for the prosecution to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. And the reason for that is because with this prop gun defense, the defense conceded to a lot, probably more than I've ever conceded to as a as a public defender. So I don't know. This is. Oh, you found your tooth? Let me see. All right, sorry, folks. I'm parenting. All right, let me play the video. I'm parenting. The tooth. Never mind. Let me just play the video.
Rocky ended up firing the gun at Ills. I'm sorry, at Relly, because Ills was in imminent danger. What imminent danger? He's got no injury. It's made up.
I'm sorry. Zeta had lost a tooth a little over a week ago, and then she could not find it. And obviously the tooth fairy could not find it. So she randomly found it apparently in a room. But the problem is the tooth fairy. Oh, I have money. Never mind. I'm sorted. But yeah, sorry, I missed a lot.
Rocky ended up firing the gun at Ills. I'm sorry, at
Brooklyn said call the tooth fairy. No, for sure. Yeah, but I have a toy or something I can give her.
Relly, because Ills and grab Ills. They say, well, it is, but you can then see something out.
I am interested in seeing the interactions between Takapina, Chad, and Rocky right before the verdict. I just want to see if the defense attorneys are supportive of Rocky. What I mean by that is, there need to be some intimacy. So far as the interactions, I've not seen much, and what I've seen has appeared to be very cold. But apparently, that's because the client, the defendant, is too busy consoling the attorney.
Out.
That's me exaggerating, obviously. I think I see Jerome up here again. Okay, so Jerome says Harlem is shaking their head.
You can't tell what it is, but you can then see that what he takes, he ends up putting out in front of him and aiming and shooting. That is what prompts Relly to grab.
Brooklyn, I'm going to monetize this channel so you can be up here sending me money, okay? Because Brooklyn has so many demands. This tooth fairy only gives out $5 if you're lucky. $5, okay? And the tooth fairy actually only gives out money if she's out of toys. Usually the tooth fairy has toys.
They say, well, he had to use, I guess, and Mr. Tech can never argue this. He can't.
Oh, and Callie, that message that I deleted, I think I forgot to reply. That was meant for my sister. I sent that inadvertently.
Because it's inconsistent with his theory. But
Let's go back. This is the juicy part. I'm sorry. We just need
danger.
to go back a little bit and listen to that argument again because I'm just stumped.
Find that out, you're done. But they're also arguing, hey, if you find, well, there was a gun, even though that's not our argument. And but self-claiming is the danger. So what is necessary to do?
I was gonna say something about Lewin. I'll let it go.
Defend against the danger, and that it was no more force than was reasonably necessary to defend against the danger. So what does all this mean? Well, they're basically claiming that the defendant used a prop gun, which means self-defense doesn't apply. So as soon as you find that out, you're done. But they're also arguing, hey, if you find, well, there was a gun, even though that's not our argument. And Mr. Tacopina wouldn't come out and say it. But that's what the law is. If you don't believe me, you can ask the judge. Yeah. Self-defense only applies in this case if it's a real gun. And the problem is, it also only applies if the force used was no more than reasonably necessary to defend against that danger. And now let's look at what that alleged danger is. There is no beating up of ills, okay? There was no beating up of ills. It's a lie. It's not true. You see the video. But even if somehow you wanted to argue, and you know it's a lie, because you can see that the gun, you can't see what the item is. Let's be clear. You can see Rocky pulling something out. You can't tell what it is, but you can then see that what he takes, he ends up putting out in front of him and aiming and shooting. That is what prompts Relly to grab Ills. They say, well, he had to use, I guess, and Mr. Tech can never argue this. He can't because it's inconsistent with his theory. But the theory would have to be that Rocky ended up firing the gun at Ills. I'm sorry, at Relly, because Ills was in imminent danger. What imminent danger? He's got no injury. It's made up. The defense is created. It didn't happen.
All right.
Very important. Belief in future harm is not sufficient. So even if you somehow believe that Relly was going to cause future harm, it doesn't work. He has to have believed at the time that there was imminent danger of bodily injury. Imminent danger of bodily injury. Okay? That's what you need. It has to be reasonable, and he has to act because of that belief. You don't have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's why the defense didn't really argue it, because they are riding the boat. Their position is the dog was off the leash. So the dog was on the leash. Not that the dog.
So Brooklyn said, "So if you live in New York, you pulled off a big one, but I know you don't live in New York because apparently you cannot drive to work in 5 minutes." It would pretty much depend where in New York I live, okay, and where I work. All right. I think. Anyways, let's leave it alone because I don't want to expose myself.
And not that
I'll put it this way: I have ties to New York. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say.
The guy who knows the dog, but again, that's what you have to believe inconsistent defenses. It just doesn't work. Now again,
name. Let me leave Brooklyn alone because I'm really trying to mess with Brooklyn. Yeah, I'll leave it alone because I think I might actually end up exposing myself. I'll leave it alone.
Slightest touching. We're not talking about the slightest touching. They're basically saying that in the first incident, they're trying to argue that Relly is the aggressor when the facts in the video don't show it. Even if he grabbed his arm, no one says he has a weapon. You cannot pull a gun on somebody who doesn't have a weapon, who's not physically hurting you. You can't threaten him with a firearm. I mean, I don't have to explain that to you all. You understand that. You can't do it. It doesn't work. So we have the burden of proving that beyond a reasonable doubt. However, again, it doesn't come into existence until you find
Thank you,
that it
Brooklyn.
was a real gun. And once you find it's a real gun, it means their entire defense was fabricated. It wasn't true. Automatically, there was no way that it could be a real gun and the defense was not fabricated. Those are impossible. Those are mutually inconsistent.
Let's listen to that again. Let us listen to that again.
And once you existence until you find that it was a real gun, and once you find it's a real gun, it means their entire defense was fabricated. It wasn't
Dang, Jerome is out there. Jerome said straight stupid. Fake gun saying let's get it.
true.
Jerome was
There's
actually
no
very
way
active.
that it could be a real gun and the defense was not fabricated. Those are impossible. Those are mutually inconsistent.
Listen to that
Means
again.
their
I'm sorry.
entire defense was fabricated. It wasn't true. Automatically, there was no way that it could be a real gun and the defense was not fabricated. Those are impossible. Those are mutually inconsistent possibilities.
Sheesh.
And when I say possibilities, meaning alternatives. So, a person who starts a fight has a right to self-defense. Relly did not start this fight.
Okay.
The defendant started this fight. And he has to actually, in good faith, he's got to try to stop fighting, which he doesn't. He's the aggressor. Both incidents. And in no way is element 2 satisfied either. So you can play games debating how a self-defense claim that the defense is not even relying on doesn't apply to the case. But you know that. Their defense is, no question, it's prop gun. A person also cannot claim self-defense if they are the one that provokes a fight or quarrel with the intent to create an excuse to use force. And that's what happened here. Relly didn't even use any force. Basically, the defendant assaults him with a firearm because he's mad at him. Shoots at him again because either Relly said something or he's still angry. So, in the end, the statements, Terrell gave a lot of statements in this case. And about all the issues that matter, he was consistent. Now, they want to say, but wait a minute. He originally said it was 3 to 4 shots. And imagine for a second. Remember, he doesn't know in advance the defendant is going to shoot. So his memory, and you can all, it's not hard to imagine, you're in a situation where you believe you're fighting for your life. How do you know that Relly was fighting for his life? He's telling Wally he was fighting for his life. He's saying the defendant tried to take him from his daughter. He believes at the time the defendant has fired 3 or 4 shots. And when he talks to Wally, he says 5 shots. That doesn't matter. That's not a question of credibility, and here's why.
Okay.
If Relly were making this up, and remember what they're saying. They're also saying that Relly had to have planted the 9mm casings. Okay? And let's talk about that for a second, because it's important. They are saying, hey, listen, Relly was out here 2 weeks before this shooting, and we don't know that he went back home.
Okay.
So apparently, Relly planned this out in advance. He got 9mm casings from when he went target shooting, knowing that 2 weeks later, the defendant would be upset with him, would text him repeatedly, and would assault him with a 9mm firearm, and he would have casings ready to put at the scene. But just to make it extra difficult.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to that one as well, Brooklyn. I'm really excited about Karen Friedman Ignifilo. You guys know I do not like attorneys that get in front of the camera and just expose everything. But I'm really excited. I'm excited for that one because it just, I'll leave it at that. But uh, from the healthcare perspective, I am excited about that case. And again, Karen Friedman Agnifilo actually used to work for Alvin Bragg. So that's an office that she's familiar with. And sometimes it can be advantageous. Other times it really doesn't make much of a difference.
He's going to tell the cops, you know what, I got shot there were 3 or 4 gunshots, but he's only going to turn in 2 casings. So remember, if he's making up this whole thing, which of course he isn't, he is certainly going to produce the amount of casings at the scene that he is saying happened.
I thought this was a good point.
That's an irrefutable concept. And that's not what occurs. And the idea that somehow Relly is Nostradamus and knows all these things are going to happen. And let's look at what have had to occur. It's 10 p.m. on a Saturday night in Hollywood. Relly doesn't live here. We know from ASAP Lou, he can't go out and buy ammunition. He doesn't have a gun. So he certainly could not have, after this incident, bought a gun, fired the ammunition, and dumped it at the scene. So that means that he's carrying around 9mm casings just in case the defendant assaults him. It's absurd. Then they say, well, wait a minute. You know that it's made up because look at the magazine that's found at the defendant's house. And now we go back to ASAP Lou. Listen, ASAP Lou, Proslemic, he really covered it pretty accurately. He's a Swiss Army knife of assistants, advisors.
Does everything. I'm sorry. I need to go back. I need to hear everything that Lou does.
He really covered it pretty accurately. He's a Swiss Army knife of assistants, advisors, security stuff. You need a personal assistant, lose your guy. You need someone to give you advice on security, lose your guy. You need someone to come over to stay for a search warrant, lose your guy. You need someone to help you get a prop gun, lose your guy. You need someone to get rid of that prop gun.
That's crazy.
After an incident where that prop gun will prove you to be innocent, lose your guy. Lou's version of what happened is nearly impossible. What is that version? And this is really important because remember, we didn't find out about it at the time. So here's what we know. The evidence in this case that you have, and I confronted the witnesses, is that Twelve testified that what he told the defense.
What is Brooklyn saying? Karen Reed will be hard on you to go through the first trial. Reports and second trial. It's a huge case. I watched the Karen Reed trial. I just obviously the channel existed, but I was not active. Let me see. During Karen Reed, no. I was doing civil work then. But yeah, I watched the second trial. I just did not cover it, but I am ready for. I'm ready for the second trial. I do not know how. There's going to be a gap in the prosecution's case. So they're going to have a big problem regardless. So their biggest problem is the lead investigator. I don't remember his name. The only names I remember from that case, I think it's Jennifer McCabe, who said, I love it. Jennifer McCabe, and then the Alberts. I think they'll call the Alberts. And then shout out to Chloe the dog, okay? Yeah, but I'm ready for the second trial for sure.
In the statement we were given.
And I think that's what we're going to get into. Once this case concludes, we do a few clips of Karen Reed, but there's a case that I want us to watch together. I already know the outcome of the case, but it illustrates something that's very important. Okay, so if you've not watched the case, don't try. We'll start with this case. Today's what? Monday? I think this case concludes tomorrow. This A$AP Rocky case, I think it concludes tomorrow. So that's going to give us some time to basically get into, I think it's one of those cases that, true crime viewers absolutely have to watch because it's very twisted. And it again goes to show the workings of criminal procedure and the rules of evidence and pretty much just the jury. Okay. So That's what we're gonna jump into after this.
Was that the defendant decided to carry a prop gun because he had been the victim of home invasions and violence. Let's just look at that for a moment. Nothing about any particular incidents. And then he gets on the stand and he starts testifying about all these incidents. But he says, oh, well, I told them. I told them about it. I think I told them. I guess I don't know. These alleged incidents of prior violence.
Yeah.
And supposedly there's a security person. Just think about this for a moment. 12, testifies that the defendant and he were stabbed at a club with a knife. That there's been a crazy stalker inside the defendant's house. That he's been the victim of other violence. And we're to believe that a security consultant said, hey, you know what you should do? You should carry a fake gun.
Brooklyn said, I'm sorry, Jerome said, get out of here.
By the way, a home invasion, defense counsel, wait a minute, it's different when you're at your home. That's what 12 said. Those were his words, home invasions and violence. Someone comes in your home. How is a prop gun going to help you? How is a prop gun going to help you against anybody? As soon as you pull a prop gun on somebody, they are going to believe that that prop gun is real. And if they have their own weapon, out of necessity, they're going to have to fire back. It's not just bad advice. It's complete insanity and it's made up. But the situation here is even worse. Because remember, they're saying that Relly knew it was a prop gun from the start.
Luan, didn't you already say this?
Gun, then what is the use in Rocky pulling it out in the first place? It would have no value.
Okay.
Relly said, of course I didn't know it was a prop gun. It wasn't a prop gun. It shot me. But the idea, you don't even need Relly's testimony. The idea, they're the ones saying, their defense is, Relly knew it was a prop gun. He stands up and says, put that fake-ass gun away. You look at him in the second incident. Is he acting like that's a fake-ass gun? Is anyone acting like it's a fake-ass gun? Is the defendant acting like it's a fake-ass gun? Of course not, because it wasn't fake. And now let's look at Lou. Lou says, well, so here's what happened. Originally, we hear nothing about the circumstances of I went over to the house and we were going to go shooting. We don't hear any of that. All that he says, now he said, I might have told the defense, I might not have, I don't remember. I didn't get into particulars. Are you kidding me? It's the entire case. But all of a sudden, he gets on the stand and he says, for the first time, well, here's what happened. I was going to teach the defendant, we were going to go shooting at a gun range. So I brought my Glock 380, which does not use 9mm ammunition, and I brought my Smith & Wesson 9mm, which cannot use a Glock 9mm Glock 43 magazine. It won't fit. They don't even look anywhere the same, and that is from Lou. Look completely different. He says, he gets over to the house, and that's when he realizes for the first time, oh my God.
Was Jerome commenting again? Where? Okay, so Jerome says, I truly believe it's two guns, a fake one and a real one. I don't know where Jerome got that information from, but okay.
I bought the wrong magazine for my Glock. Now, does it make sense that he felt a need to go out and buy a magazine for his gun, and then did not find out for some period of time, he wouldn't say where he bought it, when he bought it, and it was not for the right gun, but he made another mistake that he clearly wasn't aware of.
Okay.
I confronted him with the fact, he said, well, so I realized when I was over there, I tried to put the 9mm, or the 380, I'm sorry, the 380
said he was
ammunition in,
fidgeting.
and it wouldn't fit. Okay,
Benji said the same gun is both real and fake.
but why was it found loaded completely with 9mm ammunition. As soon as it didn't fit, he would stop. And that's just, well, I'm a fidgety dude.
Hmm.
I'm a fidgety dude. So while I was drinking, I was fidgeting, just loading a gun, loading a magazine for a gun I don't have and the defendant doesn't have. They spent a lot of time telling you, well, wait a minute, that magazine is new, hasn't been used. I asked Lou, isn't it true, Lou, that when you buy a gun, a new gun, most of the time they come with 2 magazines? Well, I don't know, I usually only buy 1.
Mm.
Well, it's interesting because he clearly went out and bought a second magazine for the 380. So not quite understanding.
Benji said it's fake inside the box. But once you open it and reveal, then it turns into something else. It transforms.
What that means. But what is very clear, ladies and gentlemen, is here's what happened. Lou doesn't own a Glock 43. He's never had one registered, so he has no reason to have a magazine for a gun he doesn't own. The defendant doesn't have a Glock 43 magazine. He has no reason to have a Glock 43 magazine for a gun he doesn't own. However, there is evidence that suggests that the gun that was used in this crime was a Glock 43. It doesn't have to be, but it is consistent with the evidence.
All right, we're gonna end right here, okay? I will be back at 8:45 p.m. I need to get myself situated. I need to eat. I need to, parent. I need to take a shower. I have stuff to do. So, I'll see you guys 8:45 p.m. What time is it now? 5? So that's in about 3 hours. Okie dokie. Bye. I'll be back 8:45 p.m. Eastern time. I'll be back.